Here on the front pew. If you don't have a copy of the white devotional book, His Word, I think there's about 3 copies left. You need to pick you up one tonight. If we need to order some more, we can. I got good news and I got bad news. The bad news is if you've already paid $5 for the PDF link, well, you just donated $5. The good news is if you hadn't already paid for it and you want it, I got it. And it won't cost you nothing. So for those of you that paid for it, all I can say is I'm sorry that I didn't have it earlier, but I've got it now. So if you would like the book PDF format, send me an email, preferably not right now, but send me an email sometime tonight or tomorrow, and I will forward you the link back on that email, and you can download it. I'll try to put it in the Dropbox so you can download it from there and have it on your iPhone or wherever you would like to have it if you don't already have it. Tuesday morning, Lord willing, tonight begins the annual lectureship at Freed-Hardeman, and it'll run all week. And so Tuesday morning, I'm going to try to leave the building here about 6:15. If you'd like to go with me, you're welcome to do that. See me tonight. And so I don't run off and leave you, or you'll probably beat me here. But anyway, I'm going to try to leave about 6:15, be back about 6:15 or 6:30 that night. So if you'd like to go over to Freed-Hardeman with me and back on Tuesday, let me know tonight, and I'd love to have you. Love to have you tag along, and we'll set in some lectures there and have lunch and do all that fun stuff together over at Freed-Hardeman on Tuesday. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 is where our questions come from tonight. The first question says to be at home in the body is to be blank with the Lord. Absent. So to be at home with the Lord would be to be absent from the body, right? If we turn that around, and we can't be at home in both places, can we? We're either in the body or we're with the Lord. And so Paul makes it clear to the Corinthian brethren that while we're at home in this body, and that's where we are absent from, we are not able to be with the Lord where He is. But there is coming a time when that'll change places or flop itself there, as it were. He goes on in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and he says that we are compelled by Christ's love. For the love of Christ compels us. There is a motivation factor behind the fact that Jesus loved us so much. And we're getting ready to talk about that for just a moment, that He did what He did for us. What an awesome love that ought to compel us, that ought to motivate us, that ought to move us to be the kind of people that God wants us to be. And then the third question. What was the third question? Yeah, that's right. That's right. We are blank of Christ. Ambassadors. That's all I could think of was the answer. Ambassadors. I'm falling guilty of what I don't want y'all falling guilty of, right? Memorizing answers, right? So one of these days I'm going to switch them on you, okay? I'm going to have a little fun with that, and I'm going to change the questions around a little bit and change the answer a little bit. We are ambassadors for Christ. We are servants. We are representatives. If people are going to see Jesus, they're going to have to see Him through us. He is no longer on this earth. He is no longer walking on this soil, but yet He can and wants to live and abide in us, and thus, as a representative, we stand as ambassadors for Christ. So let's go to Matthew 21, and let's think about our area of study for the week very quickly. We are getting ready. Matthew 21. We are entering Jerusalem. We are riding in on this donkey and colt that have been retrieved for us, and we are riding in as has been prophesied. We are getting ready for a super event. As I think about it, I just see the cross, and And, you know, as I look up and I think about the cross, I see these eagles soaring overhead. And then I look down below, and there's the Jewish patriots right there. And if you're not a football fan, you have no clue where that went, ask somebody else, okay? But the Eagles win the day, okay? You got me? Because the Patriots they're going to lose, all right? The Jewish patriots are going to lose, okay? Because this super event that's happening is the death of Jesus. It's the cross. We're getting ready for the most important event in all of history. We're getting prepared. We're getting positioned. We're getting the last details worked out for the day to arrive in our area of study for this week. Chapter 21. Matthew tells us about Jesus coming into Jerusalem. Matthew tells us about the palm branches. Matthew tells us about some of the beginning things that Jesus does when he enters Jerusalem for the last time. He'll be carried out of the city the next time he's carried out, and he'll be carried out to be crucified. He's been coming and going freely, but when he leaves the city this time, he'll be a criminal. He'll be getting ready to suffer the death of a thief, of a robber, of a murderer, execution, crucifixion. He comes in of his own accord for the last time. And then chapter 22 gives us just a monologue, if you will, of teachings that are occurring, and the time is nearing, and he knows that they're getting ready. Some last-minute events, if you will, some last-minute warnings against the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and some last-minute teachings concerning what is to be most important and what we ought to be focused on. Ultimately, coming to chapter 23 and these 7 woes to the Pharisees. Before being asked 2 questions in chapter 24, proceeding to answer both questions, and then giving some parables in chapter 25 to be closed out with the importance of the judgment. And so we go from we're getting ready. This is all preparation for the cross. This is all leading up to the event that all of history revolves around. There's some things that need to occur. There's some prophecies that need to be fulfilled. There's some questions that need to be asked. There's some teaching that needs to be given before this death occurs. But ultimately, what is happening in these 5 chapters is we are getting in position for what is coming, the ultimate end of his life here upon this earth. And so as you read through your devotionals this week, go back to chapter 21 and think about the passage that was read a moment ago. I don't remember exactly all the devotional thoughts, but I try to stay off of those and give you another one for tonight, and you can get those as the week comes along. In chapter 21, as Jesus makes this humble entry, as the disciples make a bigger scene out of this than really I think was intended. He just lived a simple life. He didn't require all the things that would revolve around royalty and priestliness, although he could have, as a king, as a priest, as a prophet. He just moved about in a very simple way of life. And in so doing, he just interacted with so many people. And I love the Bible reading a moment ago, how it just very simply says, after he's come out of the temple. And you know what he did in the temple, right? That's one of the first places he went when he gets into Jerusalem. Let's go down and check out the temple. And when he gets down there, you probably remember what he finds. And some of the most fiercest anger, some of the most righteous indignation comes about him. And then all of a sudden, verse 14, the blind and the lame come. He's just run out those that were taking advantage of these people. He's just overturned the tables. He's just driven them out with whips. And then he looks up, and here comes less fortunate people. People with physical challenges and difficulties. And he heals them. And then the others see what's happening. And they hear these children crying out, Hosanna, son of David. Now all of this scene is taking place, and they're hating every minute of it. They're making a big deal out of this guy that's calling himself Jesus, the Son of God. They're celebrating, they're rejoicing, they're honoring and praising Him. The chief priests around are very jealous, probably saddened, upset, afraid that if they continue to let this go on. And so they say to him, do you not hear? You not hear what they're claiming? Perhaps one of the best examples of self-control. One of the most difficult times in the life of Jesus, as I think about Him being a human like me, had to be when Pilate was questioning Him and He kept His mouth shut. Just to have the self-control to be able to say, I don't have to answer you. But on this occasion, He did. And when He does, He quotes Scripture to them, Psalm 8 and verse 2. And He says, man, these children got it right. You want to know what the truth is? You need to listen to some children. Because I'm telling you, out of the mouth of babes, right? It's so honest. It's so innocent. If you don't want to know, don't ask them, right? They'll tell you. They don't have any agendas behind it. They're not trying to be something that we would try to teach them not to be. They're just being children. And what they see and how they respond to what they see is just the basic facts of the nature of who they are. And so they see this, they feel this, they watch Jesus, and they watch what He's doing. A blind man comes in and all of a sudden he can see, and they're, wow. Jesus is touched by these people who are less fortunate. And then these children that are praising Jesus are touched by Jesus' ability to have feelings for these people. It's just a powerful scene in my mind that's just easy to jump over. And so I'm trying to cause you to reread and think about some things that are easy to jump over. And if we're not careful in life, it's easy for us to jump over things that can be very important, isn't it? To be distracted, or to be busy, or to be callous maybe. To not be able to feel or to have the feelings that God wants us to have, to be able to react and respond in the way that God wants us to react by seeing those who are burdened with life. Jesus was able to feel. He was able to hear. He was able to see those people. It's important for us, and He's getting ready for the biggest event in history. I mean, what could be more important than the cross? He's come into the city now where all this is going to go down. Generations of preparation And yet, he's helping someone else out. What a powerful example for you and I. Isn't it so easy to get caught up in our lives? To lose sight of others. When I come to chapter 22, maybe it's fitting for this time of the year. I don't like it any more than you do, but the question is, do we have to pay taxes? Boy, why would we bring up something that awful at church, you know? Why would they bring it up here? Beginning in verse 15, the Pharisees went and plotted how to entangle him in his words. I told you they always were doing that, right? And so they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, and they said, "Teacher, we know that you're true and you teach the way of God, and you do not care about anyone's opinion, and you're not swayed by appearances. Tell us then what you think. Should we pay taxes?" I mean, Caesar's not, he doesn't claim to follow God. He doesn't claim to be a righteous man. This government under which we serve is anything but spiritual or righteous or holy. I mean, do we really need to be giving our money to Caesar? Jesus, aware of, he knows what they're trying to do, right? The simple answer is, yeah. You pay taxes. He's going to give the answer in just a moment. Whether you like it or not, or agree with it or not, as a citizen of that government, you pay what is rightfully taxed to you. But that's not what he says. He says, you got a coin in your pocket? Who's on that coin? Well, if it's a quarter, it's George Washington, right? What does that represent? Well, that represents the government, doesn't it? When they picked out their coin, they said, yeah, there's George Washington. Caesar, okay. Jesus says, all right, if your coin has the image of Caesar on it, then render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. And render unto God the things that are God's. And when they heard it, they marveled. An age-old question, right? What is our responsibility to the government? Well, read Romans 13, 1 through 7. And realize that every government is subject to the power and authority of God. And God can use a Pharaoh to accomplish His purpose. He done it before. He can do it again. He can use evil and ungodly and unrighteous people. You and I are to be lawful citizens of the United States of America. As long as, remember what Peter and the other apostles said? Acts chapter 5, we must obey God rather than man. As long as God is not violated, you and I, as long as they're not forcing us to compromise or to rid ourselves of our allegiance to God and our faith, then we are to render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Chapter 23. We got any Pharisees today? Oh no, I realize we don't have the Jewish sect of the Pharisees in our Leoma community, but do we have any Pharisees today? Well, before you answer that, let's just take a quick look at what a Pharisee is. Look at verse 3. So do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the works they do. For they preach, and they do not practice what they preach. Jesus says of the Pharisees. In other words, they tell you to do one thing, but they themselves live another way. Verse 5. They do all their deeds to be seen by others. Verse 12, whoever exalts himself shall be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. So apparently they are very prideful and very arrogant. Just a quick snapshot of the Pharisee. People who say one thing and do another. People who show up to be seen by others, to be praised by others. People who put forth their best, when they're with other people so that they can impress. People who raise the bar for themselves. And yet, Jesus calls them hypocrites. People who look good on the outside. Time wouldn't allow me to go all the way through this chapter, but there's 7 of them. People who look good on the outside, but on the inside are full of corruption. People who put forth their Sunday best only to do what they want to on Monday. Do we have any Pharisees today? Sure. Oh, we don't call them Pharisees, no. I may not use that terminology, but the reality of it is that the mentality of a Pharisee is very much alive in our world today. And we need not be Pharisees. It's a warning. It's, woe are you if you are a Pharisee. If you practice and act and have this attitude and mindset about you, please avoid, get rid of, destroy, conquer, overcome those types of mentalities. Those that wish to be seen or by others and only. Those that wish to exalt themselves. Those that wish to hold the keys to the kingdom. Those that polish the outside while letting the heart rot on the inside. Those that say one thing and do another. Read Matthew 23. It is a very sincere warning. It's some of Jesus' final instructions to say, now I got to get this in. It's like when the preacher says, I know time's up, but I got one more thing I got to tell you. It's important. And thus he shares this with the Pharisees. It's important that you not continue on this way, because look at verse 33. You don't want their sentence. You don't want their end. You don't want their eternal reward, if that's what you want to call it. Their sentencing is not something that you and I desire, and thus we need to avoid Phariseeism. In chapter 24, I mentioned Jesus asked 2 questions. A lot to discuss in chapter 24, and time won't allow us, but it is a very challenging chapter, to say the least. But in verse 3, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be? And I think if you want to do yourself a favor, you'll go through the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew and you'll underline these things. And I think if you'll recognize this as 2 questions with 2 distinct answers, it might clarify some of the confusion about the end of time and some of the false doctrines that are being taught, because a lot of the false doctrines that are being taught out of Matthew 24 about the end of time. And realize that Jesus is addressing 2 questions here. And the first question has nothing to do with the end of time. It has everything to do with right then, right now. What he's looking at as far as the cross and the things that are about to be, that are about to come to be, that are about to transpire. Things that you and I would consider very much in the past. But then in verse 3, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Thus, the second part to the two-part question. Yes, Jesus does address the end of time in Matthew 24. And he does talk about what's going to happen at the end of time when the second coming occurs. And obviously they're trying to get their minds because they want to know, when's it going to be? When's it going to happen? What's going to be our warning, you know? I'm a deadline person. I don't know about you, but I'm a deadline person. I like deadlines, you know. If you want something from me, tell me when you want it and expect it the day before, okay? It's just that simple. I'm not trying to be ugly or rude or smart aleck. I'm just saying, give me a deadline. Don't tell me you need something without a deadline, because guess when you're going to get it? Probably never. I'm just being honest. I'm a deadline person. Tell me when you need it. Tell me when you want it. I'll do my best to fulfill the desire or the request. When do you study for tests? Kids, close your ears. Close to the deadline, okay? That's just, when do you do your homework? Close to the deadline, right? I'm a deadline person. Some of you are not. Some of you y'all are just overachievers, and y'all just do it all and get ahead. But I'm kind of like these people. When's the deadline? Okay? When's the deadline? Going back to chapter 22, you know, if my taxes are due on April the 15th, that's the deadline, right? I like deadlines. They want a deadline. How are we going to know when this is coming? How long are we going to have? Like, Jesus, could you give us a timeline of, now this is going to happen in 2 hours later. This is going to happen in 2 hours later. This is going to happen. And then ultimately I'm going to appear in the clouds, and that's going to be the end of time, the trumpet and all of that surrounds the second coming. And then it'll be done. But you'll have a 2-hour period here and a 2-hour period here and a 2-hour period here. Well, Jesus said, I tell you what. Take on chapter 25 with me. And let's talk about 10 virgins. You want to? There were 10 virgins that were given an invitation. And 5 of them brought enough oil and 5 of them didn't. Uh-oh. So they ran out and they had to go buy more, and the bridegroom came and opened the door, and they weren't there. But the other 5 were, and they came in, and I'm paraphrasing the parable of the 10 virgins or the story. And the master closed the door, and the other 5 come running, and whoa, wait, let us. No, you missed your opportunity. Well, but that ain't fair because you didn't give us a deadline. Well, that ain't fair because we brought enough oil to do the first day, but you didn't come. It's your fault because you didn't come back in time, right? And we ran out of oil and had to go buy. See, it's always somebody else's fault. Ain't never my fault. So you ought to let us in because it was your fault. You should have come sooner. And then he tells about these 3 guys that were given these talents. And the master went away for a time. He didn't say, okay, now I'm going to give this to you and I'll be back in a week. I like deadlines. No, time passed and he returned. And when he returned, he wanted to settle his accounts. And so he called the men, and the 5-talent man and the 2-talent man and the 1-talent man came. Ultimately leading up to verse 31, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all of his angels with him, he'll sit on his glorious throne. All nations will be gathered before him, and he'll separate people as a shepherd separates sheep from the goats. And the goats will be on one side, and the sheep will be on the other side. And then the king will say to those on the right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you before the foundation of the world. And then he will say, verse 41, to those on the left, depart from me, you cursed, into eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. Verse 46, and these will go away into eternal punishment. but the righteous into eternal life. Jesus said, best sign I know to give you is that it's coming. Now, there's not going to be a deadline. There's not going to be a 2-hour gap and a 2-hour gap. And, wouldn't it be great? I mean, let's just be honest, folks. Wouldn't it be great if our Bible said God's going to blow the trumpet? And when He blows the trumpet, you'll have 2 hours before Jesus comes back. But wouldn't that be great? Do you know if my Bible said that, where I'd probably be right now? Watching the Super Bowl. I'm going to have a 2-hour gap. What difference does right now make? I mean, I've obeyed the gospel. I've been baptized into the blood of Jesus Christ. I have an advocate with the Father. I have a mediator. I can go straight to the Father through Jesus. I can come. I can repent and confess and be prayed for within 2 hours. Agree or not agree? So, why would I care right now? I'm going to have an hour. I don't care. You put the time on it. Wouldn't it be great if there was this warning siren that was going to fire off, and we were going to have an increment of time? What do you think that would do for the number of people in heaven? Oh, it would surely increase it, wouldn't it? What do you think that would do for the people that were living for heaven right now? Oh, it would surely decrease it, wouldn't it? I mean, anything could be more important than trying to go to heaven right now if I know I'm going to have a chance at the end. But the reality of it is, as Jesus tells them in Matthew 24 at the end and in Matthew 25 in connection with that, is that there is coming a time when all nations are going to be separated, and the goat and the sheep are going to go in different directions, and those on the right and those on the left are going to go in different directions, and you don't know when that's coming. That's what He said in verse 36, chapter 24, wasn't it? You don't know the day. You don't know the hour. Oh, I would love to try to tell you tonight that, there'll be a 7-day period. It'll be all right. I would love to tell you tonight that, there'll be a first collection of people that are ready, and then there'll be a period of time. I think 1,000 years is a little long, but there'll be a period of time when everybody who wasn't ready for that first gathering will have a chance to get it right. I would say 7 days is probably a little more believable, although I think both of them's wrong. But even if I just had 7 hours, I think I could do it. And then there'll be another gathering of everybody who gets right in the interim time there. Well, wouldn't that be great? I could really teach that, I could really convince people of that. The problem I'd have is that it's not biblical. You see, when time ends. That's over. There's no instant replay. There's no 10-second runoff. There's no overtime. No, that is what it is. And all of these things that you're trying to figure out that's going to accompany that event is pale in comparison to you being ready for that event. And that's the problem. You want to understand all the unique phenomenons that are going to go on while all the while living unprepared for it to happen. And maybe you and I don't want to understand all the phenomenons that's going to go on that day, but maybe we're so off somewhere else in our lives that we're really not focused on that event right now. I'm telling you that event is coming. Your Bible makes it clear, and it will be final when it comes. And it is important. As much as I would love to give you a warning, this is the best warning I can give you. It might just be a 5-minute warning or a 2-minute warning. This is the best warning I can give you. It's going to happen. Your Bible says so. Now you get ready and you stay ready, and it won't matter when or where or how or what. It won't matter. Because when he goes looking for the sheep, that's who you'll be. And when he looks to those on the right and says, blessed are you of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you before the foundation of the world. That's all that'll matter. I dare say, not one person will look up on that day and go, you know, I really thought the trumpet would sound a little different. You ever thought about that? What difference is it going to make? The only thing that's going to make a difference is if you're right with God. And if you're not, then tonight we encourage you to get ready and stay ready. Jesus is getting ready for one of the biggest events of his life. Are you and I getting ready for one of the biggest events of our lives? That is death or the second coming? I hope so. If we can help you with that, would you come right now as we stand and sing?
Be saved, oh, tonight.